The changes started immediately and spread through the academy like ripples in a pond. Katie noticed it first during her morning meal when the usual chatter in the dining hall dropped to whispers as she entered. Cadets from a dozen different species tracked her movement across the room with expressions ranging from respectful to nervous. She found an empty table in the corner and sat down with her food, trying to ignore the attention. Within minutes, 3 cadets she barely knew had approached her table. "Cadet Sullivan?" The speaker was a young Meridian named Kell who had never spoken to her before. "Would it be possible to sit with you?" Katie looked up in surprise. Behind Kell stood a crystalline and another human, both looking uncertain but determined. "Of course," Katie said, gesturing to the empty chairs around her table. As they settled in, Kell explained quietly, "We wanted to thank you for what you did. Zektar and his friends have been bullying smaller cadets for months. No one was brave enough to stand. Up to them." The crystalline, whose name was Prex, chimed softly in agreement. "They told me my species was too fragile for real military service. Said I should quit before I got someone killed in actual combat." The other human, a quiet girl named Beth from the Europa colonies, nodded. "They kept saying humans were violent, savages, but you proved we can be controlled and precise when we need to be. You showed them that strength without honor is just thuggery." Katie felt uncomfortable with the praise, but she understood what they were really saying. Her fight hadn't just been about defending herself. It had been about defending every cadet who had ever been made to feel inferior because of their species or size. Over the following days, more cadets began approaching her. Some wanted training advice. Others just wanted to be associated with someone who had stood up to the Academy's biggest bullies. Katie tried to treat them all with the same quiet courtesy she had always shown, but she could feel the weight of their expectations. The instructors noticed the change, too. Professor Kelnoth, who had always seemed mildly contemptuous of human capabilities, now called on Katie regularly during tactical discussions. His grinding voice held a note of respect that hadn't been there before. "Miss Sullivan," he said during one class, "given your recent practical experience with close-quarters combat, how would you assess the effectiveness of numerical superiority against a well-trained individual opponent?" Katie thought carefully before answering. Numbers can be an advantage if the attackers coordinate properly and use tactics that leverage their strengths. But if they rely on numbers alone without strategy, they become predictable. A prepared defender can use their aggression and overconfidence against them. Several cadets nodded approvingly. Professor Kelnoth made notes on his datapad, his crystalline facets brightening with what might have been approval. "An astute observation," he said. "This aligns with historical data from numerous conflicts where smaller forces defeated larger ones through superior preparation and tactical thinking. But not all the changes were positive. Katie quickly discovered that some cadets now feared her, giving her a wide berth in corridors and avoiding eye contact when she passed. During group exercises, some partners were visibly nervous, afraid that any mistake might trigger the same violence they had witnessed in Training Bay 7. This became a problem during engineering fundamentals when Katie was paired with a young Vrix named Keltar for a complex circuitry project. The insectoid's compound eyes kept darting toward her hands as she worked, and his mandibles clicked nervously whenever she reached for a tool. "You don't have to be afraid of me," Katie said quietly during a break in the exercise. "I'm not going to hurt you." Keltar's exoskeleton shifted colors with embarrassment. "I know that logically, but seeing what you did to Grix, who is twice my size and 3 times stronger than me, It makes me nervous to work closely with a deathworlder." Katie sighed and set down her tools. What happened in combat class was self-defense against 4 opponents who were trying to hurt me. I would never attack a partner during a training exercise. "But how would I know when you felt threatened?" Keltar asked. "Grix thought he was just participating in a normal sparring session until you put him through a wall." It was a fair question, and Katie realized it was one she would have to answer many times in the coming weeks. The efficiency of her response had impressed some cadets and terrified others. She needed to find a way to demonstrate that humans could control their capabilities just as precisely as they could unleash them. The opportunity came during a complex simulation exercise designed to test leadership and teamwork under pressure. Cadets were divided into teams and given a scenario involving multiple system failures aboard a damaged starship. Each team had to work together to restore critical functions while dealing with simulated injuries and equipment malfunctions. Katie found herself assigned as team leader for a group that included Velnara, 3 cadets she barely knew, and 1 who had been openly hostile since the fight. The hostile one was a Saurian named Rextar, apparently a cousin of the expelled Zektar, who made his disapproval clear from the beginning. "I don't take orders from violent deathworlders," he announced, as they reviewed the scenario parameters. Katie looked at him calmly. "That's your choice, but this exercise requires coordination between all team members. If you can't work with me as team leader, you're welcome to request a transfer to another team." Rextar's scales shifted to an aggressive red, but before he could respond, Velnara intervened. "The teams are already assigned," she said in her melodic voice, "and Katie has consistently scored in the top percentile for tactical analysis and problem solving. If you want this team to succeed, you should probably listen to her suggestions." The exercise began with their simulated ship suffering catastrophic damage from an asteroid impact. Life support was failing, the main reactor was offline, and several team members were injured and unable to perform certain tasks. Katie quickly assessed the situation and began assigning roles based on each team member's strengths. She sent Rextar to handle the power systems because of his natural resistance to radiation. Velnara was assigned to communications because of her species' sensitivity to electromagnetic frequencies. The others were given tasks that played to their particular abilities. "What about you?" asked Lynn, one of the cadets Katie didn't know well. "What's your assignment?" "I'm going to the damaged section to manually restart the backup life support," Katie said, reviewing the schematics on her data pad. Rextar's scales paled slightly. "That section is showing extreme structural damage and potential atmosphere loss. It's a death trap." Katie nodded matter-of-factly. "Which is why I'm the logical choice to go. Humans are adapted for extreme environments and can function longer in low-oxygen situations than most species. If anyone can get through that section and complete the repairs, it's me." She began making her way toward the simulated danger zone, but Rextar called after her. "Wait," he said, his aggressive posture softening slightly. "You're seriously going to risk your life to save the rest of us?" Katie paused and looked back at him. "That's what team leaders do. They take the most dangerous assignments to protect their people." As she disappeared into the damaged section of the simulation, Rextar stared after her with an expression of confusion and growing respect. The exercise continued for 2 hours, with Katie coordinating the team's efforts while working. In the most hazardous conditions the simulation could generate, she guided them through system repairs, resource management, and emergency medical procedures while personally handling the tasks that were too dangerous for the other species to attempt. When the simulation finally ended with their ship successfully restored to minimal operational status, their team had achieved one of the highest scores in Academy history. More importantly, they had done it through cooperation and mutual respect rather than dominance or intimidation. As they filed out of the simulation chamber, Rextar approached Katie with obvious reluctance. "I owe you an apology," he said, his scales a subdued brown color. "I expected you to lead through fear and intimidation the way Zektar always did. Instead, you protected us and put yourself in danger for our benefit." Katie nodded acknowledgement of the apology. "Leadership isn't about making people afraid of you. It's about making them trust you to make the right decisions when everything goes wrong." Word of the successful simulation spread quickly through the Academy. Cadets who had been avoiding Katie began seeking her out for advice on tactics and leadership. Those who had been afraid of her started to relax, realizing that her capacity for violence was matched by an equally strong sense of responsibility and restraint. The real test came 3 weeks later during the Advanced Command Scenarios final exam. Katie found herself in charge of a mixed-species unit tasked with rescuing civilian refugees from a war zone while dealing with hostile forces and limited resources. Her team included representatives from 8 different species, each bringing their own strengths and limitations to the mission. The Catherians provided reconnaissance with their excellent eyesight. The Meridians handled underwater operations. The Crystallines managed energy systems with their natural understanding of power flow. Maya had been awake for 2 more days when Dr. Quinzeth decided to run more tests. She hung in her chains and watched him prepare strange devices that beeped and glowed with colored lights. The medical bay smelled like the cleaning chemicals her mother used back home mixed with something that reminded her of burnt metal. "The neural patterns are extraordinary," Dr. Quinzeth said to his assistant while they attached sensors to Maya's arms and head. "This creature's brain shows activity levels that would indicate severe trauma in any civilized species, but she appears completely functional." Maya had learned that staying quiet and listening taught her more than asking questions. The aliens loved to explain things to each other while they thought she could not understand their technical language. They were wrong about that, too. "Commander Vextal wants a complete biological analysis before we reach Kepler Station," the assistant said. "The buyers are paying premium prices for detailed specifications on Deathworld specimens." "Beginning cardiovascular assessment," Dr. Quinzeth announced while a machine started making rhythmic thumping sounds. Maya felt something cold wrap around her arm. The device squeezed tight, then released over and over while numbers appeared on screens around the room. Dr. Quinzeth made concerned clicking noises as he read the results. "This cannot be accurate," he said. "The readings indicate blood pressure levels that should have caused immediate cardiac failure." "Perhaps the equipment is malfunctioning," the assistant suggested. "Run bone density scans," Dr. Quinzeth ordered. Another machine hummed to life, and Maya felt warm energy pass through her body from head to feet. More numbers appeared on the screens, and both aliens stepped backward, making rapid clicking sounds that Maya had learned meant surprise or fear. "Bone density is 3.7 times standard galactic average," Dr. Quinzeth read from his screen. "Muscle fiber tensile strength exceeds measurement parameters. How is this creature not collapsing under its own structural weight?" Maya almost smiled. These aliens had evolved on worlds with weak gravity where everything was light and fragile. They could not understand that humans came from a place where heavy meant strong and strong meant alive. "The gravity on their homeworld must be extreme," the assistant said. No wonder they classify it as a death world. Continue with respiratory analysis, Dr. Quinseth ordered. They put a mask over Maya's face and told her to breathe normally. The machine attached to the mask made beeping sounds while she inhaled and exhaled. After a few minutes, both aliens were staring at their screens like they had seen something impossible. Lung capacity is 4 times larger than body size should allow, Dr. Quinseth reported. Oxygen processing efficiency is beyond our measurement range. This creature could survive in atmospheres that would suffocate most known species. Maya knew they were learning things about humans that scared them. Good. Fear made people make mistakes, and she was counting on these aliens making many mistakes. Let's test reflexes and coordination, the assistant said. They brought out a device that looked like a metal stick with a glowing tip. Dr. Quinseth held it near Maya's face and moved it back and forth while watching her eyes. Track the light, he instructed. Maya followed the moving light easily. Her eyes locked onto it and tracked its movement perfectly even when Dr. Quinseth tried to move it quickly in random patterns. She could have followed it much faster, but she wanted them to think she was trying her best. Visual tracking is precise, Dr. Quinseth noted. Reaction time is 0.03 seconds faster than our equipment can measure accurately. They tested her hearing by playing sounds at different volumes and frequencies. Maya could hear sounds so quiet the aliens needed machines to detect them. She could also hear sounds so high or low that the aliens could not hear them at all. Auditory range exceeds all known biological parameters, the assistant reported. This creature can detect sound frequencies across a spectrum wider than our most sensitive instruments. Dr. Quinseth made worried clicking sounds. These readings suggest capabilities that approach the theoretical limits of biological evolution. How does a species develop such extreme sensory acuity? Maya decided to help them understand. Everything on Earth wants to kill you, she said quietly. You learn to see, hear, and react fast, or you die. Both aliens jumped when she spoke. They had been so focused on their tests, they had forgotten she was listening and could respond. Explain this more, Dr. Quinseth demanded. Maya looked at him with the same expression she used when explaining simple things to her little brother Danny. Earth has big animals with sharp teeth, small animals with poison, plants that eat meat, weather that freezes you or burns you. If you are slow or weak or stupid, you become food for something else. But how do you survive in such conditions? The assistant asked. We are faster, stronger, and smarter than the things trying to kill us, Maya said like it was obvious. Humans are the best predators on Earth. Dr. Quinseth and his assistant exchanged looks that Maya recognized. They were beginning to understand that they had captured something much more dangerous than they realized. Initiate strength assessment protocols, Dr. Quinseth said nervously. They brought a machine that looked like it was designed to measure how much force someone could apply with their hands. The problem was that Maya's hands were still chained to the wall. We will need to release one restraint temporarily, the assistant pointed out. Minimal release only. Dr. Quinseth agreed. Maintain all other containment measures. They pressed buttons on a control panel, and Maya felt the energy field around her right wrist fade slightly. The chain loosened just enough that she could move her hand a few inches. They guided her hand to a metal grip on their testing device. Squeeze as hard as you can, Dr. Quinseth instructed. Maya wrapped her fingers around the metal grip and squeezed, gently. The machine beeped and showed a number on its screen. Both aliens looked disappointed. That reading is well within normal parameters, the assistant observed. Try harder, Dr. Quinseth encouraged. Maya squeezed a little harder. The machine beeped again and showed a slightly larger number. She was using maybe 1/10 of her actual strength, but the alien seemed satisfied that she was a normal, weak creature after all. Perhaps the bone density readings were anomalous, Dr. Quinzeth mused. This specimen appears to have standard muscular capacity despite its robust skeletal structure. Maya almost laughed. These aliens had never seen what humans could really do when they needed to survive. They thought the chains holding her were strong enough because they would hold any creature from their weak gravity worlds. They had no idea that Maya had been testing those chains every day and learning exactly how much force it would take to break them. Return the specimen to standard restraint configuration, Dr. Quinzeth ordered. The assistant moved toward the control panel to reactivate the energy field around Maya's wrist. This was the moment Maya had been waiting for. While one alien was focused on the controls and the other was putting away his testing equipment, Maya tested her theory about the chain strength. She flexed her right hand and pulled against the loosened restraint with about half of her real strength. The metal chain stretched, and the connecting joint made a small cracking sound. Maya immediately relaxed and let her hand go limp like she had just been shifting position. Neither alien noticed the sound or the tiny crack that had appeared in the metal. Maya had confirmed what she suspected. The chains were strong enough to hold creatures from low-gravity worlds, but they were not strong enough to hold a human who had grown up fighting Earth's heavy gravity every day of her life. Testing complete, Dr. Quinzeth announced. This specimen shows typical Deathworld resilience but appears manageable with current containment protocols. Maya smiled slightly as they reactivated the energy field around her wrist. These aliens had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. They thought they understood what they had captured, but they had no idea what was coming for them. Maya waited until the ship entered what the aliens called sleep cycle before she made her move. The lights in her cell dimmed to almost nothing, and the constant humming of machines became quieter. She had spent 6 days learning the patterns of this ship, and now she knew when the fewest guards would be watching. The crack in her right chain had grown larger each day as Maya carefully worked at it during the medical tests. Tonight, the metal finally gave way with a soft snapping sound that she covered by coughing at exactly the right moment. Her right hand was free. She hung quietly for several minutes, listening for any sign that someone had noticed the change. The ship continued its steady vibration, and she heard no footsteps or voices. Maya carefully reached across her body and began working on the chain, holding her left wrist. The metal was the same type as the right chain, and Maya knew exactly where to apply pressure to make it fail. She twisted and pulled with steady force until she heard the familiar cracking sound. Her left hand came free, and she nearly fell forward before catching herself. Now came the hard part. Maya's legs were still chained to the wall, but she had enough freedom to reach the control panel that managed her containment field. The problem was that the controls were labeled in Zephyrian symbols that looked like twisted lines and geometric shapes. Maya had been watching Dr. Quinzeth use these controls for days. She remembered which symbols he pressed and in what order. More importantly, she had been listening to the sounds the machines made when different settings changed. Every button had its own tone, and every function had its own rhythm. She pressed the symbols carefully and listened to the responses. The energy field around her legs flickered and weakened. Maya pulled against the leg chains with increasing force, until they stretched and snapped just like the wrist restraints had. Maya dropped to the floor for the first time in 6 days. Her legs felt weak and shaky, but her body quickly adapted to being upright again. Humans were built to recover fast from injuries and setbacks. They had to be on a world where showing weakness meant becoming something else's dinner. She gathered up the broken chains and wrapped them around her arms like metal ropes. The pieces were each about 3 feet long and still connected to heavy metal cuffs. Maya had grown up on a farm where she learned to use everything as a tool. These chains would make excellent weapons if she used them right. The door to her cell was locked, but Maya had watched the guards enter her code many times. She pressed the right sequence of symbols, and the door slid open with a quiet hissing sound. The corridor outside was empty and dimly lit. Maya moved through the ship like her father had taught her to move through the woods when hunting. Every step was careful and quiet. Every corner was checked before she moved forward. Every sound was identified before she decided it was safe to continue. She followed the path she had memorized from listening to the guards talk about their routes. Cargo Bay 7 was where they kept the other humans. Maya needed to find her people and figure out how to get everyone off this ship. The corridors were built for creatures taller and thinner than humans. Maya had to duck slightly under some of the doorways, but the passages were wide enough for her to move easily. The walls were made of some kind of metal that felt cold and smooth under her fingers. She found Cargo Bay 7 exactly where the guards had said it would be. The door was larger than the others and had different symbols on the control panel. Maya listened carefully at the door and heard quiet human voices inside. Her people were alive. The lock on this door was more complex than her cell. Maya pressed symbol combinations and listened to the machine responses, but nothing worked. She was about to try forcing the mechanism when she heard footsteps coming down the corridor behind her. Maya pressed herself against the wall next to the door and waited. A Zephyrian guard appeared around the corner carrying some kind of weapon that glowed with blue light. He was thin and tall, like all his species, with the same gray paper skin and black eyes. The guard walked directly toward Maya, without seeing her in the shadows. When he was close enough, she stepped out behind him and wrapped one of her chains around his neck. The metal links pressed against his throat, and he made choking sounds while trying to reach his weapon. Maya had learned from watching the medical tests that Zephyrian bone structure was hollow and fragile compared to human bones. She applied just enough pressure to make the guard unconscious without killing him. His weapon fell to the floor with a metallic clatter. She dragged the unconscious guard away from the door and took his access device. The small metal card unlocked Cargo Bay 7 when she pressed it against the control panel. The door slid open and Maya saw her people for the first time in 6 days. 17 humans were chained to the walls just like Maya had been. She recognized faces from New Montana Colony, including Jake Morrison, who had worked at the mining station, and Lisa Carter, who managed the hydroponic farms. They all looked tired and scared but alive. "Maya?" Jake whispered when he saw her. "How? Did you get free?" "These aliens do not understand what humans can do," Maya said while examining the locks on Jake's restraints. "They built these chains for weak creatures from low-gravity worlds." She used the guard's access device to release Jake's energy field, then helped him break his chains the same way she had broken hers. Jake was a big man with strong arms from years of heavy mining work. The alien restraints snapped like thin wire when he pulled against them. "We need to be quiet," Maya warned while they moved to free Lisa Carter. "There are more guards on this ship and they have weapons." "How many?" Jake asked while rubbing his wrists where the chains had been. "I counted at least 12 during the day shift," Maya replied. "Probably fewer at night, but we should assume they can call for help." Lisa Carter was smaller than Jake, but she had the wiry strength of someone who worked with her hands every day. Her chains broke as easily as the others when she applied human-level force to the weak alien metal. "Where are we?" Lisa asked. "On a Zephyrian ship called Void Harvest," Maya explained while they freed more prisoners. "They are taking us to something called Kepler Station to sell us as slaves." The other humans made angry sounds when they heard this, but Maya held up her hand for quiet. Getting angry was useful, but staying smart was more important if they wanted to survive. "We need weapons, and we need to take control of the ship," Maya said. "The aliens think we are weak and primitive. We can use that mistake against them." Captain Kyle Bennett was the last prisoner they freed. Maya recognized him from the military insignia on his torn uniform. Bennett was older than the others, with gray hair and scars on his hands from years of service. "What's our tactical situation?" Bennett asked as soon as his chains were broken. "One ship, approximately 50 alien crew members, unknown number of weapons," Maya reported. "The aliens are physically weak with hollow bones and thin muscles. Their technology is advanced but designed around their physical limitations." Bennett nodded approvingly. "What's your assessment of our capabilities?" Maya held up her broken chains. "Every human on this ship is stronger than any alien. We come from heavy gravity and we are built to fight things that want to kill us. These creatures have never seen real predators in action. Then let's show them what Earth's children can do when someone tries to cage us," Bennett said grimly. Maya smiled and began distributing pieces of broken chain to each of the freed humans. It was time to teach the Zephyrians why capturing humans was the worst mistake they would ever make. Maya led the freed humans through the ship's corridors like a pack of wolves hunting together. Captain Bennett took point behind her, while Jake Morrison and Tony Rodriguez covered their rear. The other humans moved in pairs carrying pieces of broken chain and stolen alien weapons. They had spent 2 hours learning the ship's layout and disabling guard posts one by one. The Zephyrians never expected coordinated attacks from multiple directions. Their security was designed to handle single-escaped prisoners, not organized human tactics. "Bridge is 3 levels up," Maya whispered as they gathered near a maintenance shaft. "I counted 6 crew members, including Commander Vextal, during day shift." "Weapons status?" Bennett asked quietly. 12 alien energy weapons captured, Tony Rodriguez reported. "But they are designed for Zephyrian physiology. The grips are too small and the weight distribution is wrong for humans." Maya preferred her chains anyway. The metal links had perfect balance, and she could control them with precision that came from years of farm work with ropes and tools. Human hands were designed to grip and manipulate objects with fine motor control that the aliens could not match. "Lisa, what did you learn about their computer systems?" Maya asked. Lisa Carter held up a small alien device she had taken from a guard station. "Their technology is advanced, but it assumes users with limited physical strength. No security protocols for someone who can simply break the access panels open. Chloe, how about life support and ship systems?" Maya continued. Chloe Davis had worked as a spacecraft technician back on New Montana. She understood machines better than anyone else in their group. "Their atmospheric controls are centralized and poorly protected. I can adjust gravity, air, pressure, temperature, whatever we need." Maya nodded. The plan was simple, but it would work because the aliens had no idea what humans were capable of when they worked together. Zephyrian culture seemed to be built around individual specialists who followed orders from above. They did not understand cooperative tactics or flexible thinking. Amanda, What did you observe about their biology during the medical tests? Maya asked. Dr. Amanda Foster had been captured while studying alien plant samples near the colony. Her knowledge of xenobiology was giving them crucial advantages. Hollow bone structure throughout their skeleton. Muscle density approximately 1/5 of human standard. Cardiovascular system optimized for low-pressure environments. Which means, Bennett prompted, increase gravity to Earth normal and they become immobilized, Amanda explained. Increase it further and their bones will fracture under their own weight. Maya smiled. The aliens had made their ship comfortable for their own physiology, but that comfort would become a weapon against them. Humans had evolved to function in conditions that would kill most galactic species. Signal from the bridge, Tony Rodriguez warned quietly. They all froze and listened. Voices were speaking in rapid Zephyrian through the ship's communication system. Maya could understand enough of their language now to get the basic meaning. They know we are free, she translated. Commander Vextal is calling for emergency protocols and requesting assistance from other ships. How long until help arrives? Bennett asked. Maya listened to more of the alien chatter. At least 6 hours, but they are sealing off sections of the ship and activating automated defenses. Then we move now before they can organize a proper response, Bennett decided. Maya, take Jake and Tony toward the bridge from the main corridor. Lisa and Chloe, use the maintenance shafts to reach environmental controls. Amanda and I will secure the communication center to prevent distress calls. Maya liked Captain Bennett's tactical thinking. He understood that speed and coordination were their biggest advantages against enemies who were not used to fighting adaptive opponents. They split into their assigned teams and moved through the ship with practiced stealth. Maya's team encountered 2 guard patrols on the way to the bridge, but the aliens were no match for humans with improvised weapons and Earth-trained reflexes. The first patrol consisted of 3 Zephyrians with energy weapons. They expected to hunt down escaped prisoners, not face coordinated attackers who moved like persistence predators. Maya's chains wrapped around their weapons and necks before they could react. Jake and Tony disabled them with quick, efficient strikes that would have been gentle taps to a human, but were devastating to creatures with hollow bones. The second patrol tried to use their ranged weapons from a distance, but they had never fought. Opponents who could throw objects with human accuracy and force. Maya's chain struck the lead guard's weapon with enough impact to shatter the alien device and break 3 of his fingers. The other guards surrendered immediately when they saw their advanced technology destroyed by a simple piece of metal. Bridge. Level secured. Maya reported into the communication device they had taken from the first guard post. Environmental controls accessed, Chloe responded. Ready to implement gravity modifications on your signal. Communication center neutralized, Bennett added. No distress signals have been transmitted. Maya stood outside the bridge entrance, with Jake and Tony flanking her. The door was sealed, but she could hear voices inside speaking in frightened tones. Commander Vextal was arguing with his officers about how humans could have possibly escaped their restraints. They want to know how we broke chains designed to hold any known biological entity, Maya said with grim satisfaction. Let's show them. She pressed the stolen access device against the door controls. When nothing happened, she simply grabbed the door frame and pulled. The metal groaned and bent under human strength applied with proper leverage. Jake and Tony helped her tear the door completely out of its mounting brackets. The 6 Zephyrians on the bridge stared in horror as Maya stepped through the ruined doorway, dragging pieces of their security door behind her. Commander Vextal pointed a weapon at her with shaking hands. Impossible, he whispered. The containment systems were rated for Class 5 biological entities. Your Class 5 rating system never met a human from Earth, Maya replied calmly. Chloe, increase gravity to Earth standard in the bridge area only. The ship's gravity field shifted, and suddenly, every alien on the bridge was pressed down by 3 times their normal weight. Their hollow bones creaked under the pressure, and their thin muscles could barely support their own body mass. Commander, Vextal's weapon fell from his grip as his arm became too weak to lift it. Maya walked across the bridge easily while the aliens struggled to even remain standing. Earth's gravity felt comfortable and familiar after days of the ship's weak artificial field. This was the environment where humans had evolved and where they were strongest. You made a mistake when you captured my people, Maya said while standing over Commander Vextal's collapsed form. You thought we were primitive animals that could be caged and sold. You never bothered to learn what we really are. What are you? Vextal gasped through the crushing weight. Maya smiled and held up her chains so all the aliens could see them clearly. We are the apex predators of a world that kills everything weak. We are tool users who can turn any object into a weapon. We are pack hunters who coordinate better than any species you have ever encountered. She knelt down next to the fallen commander and spoke quietly so only he could hear. Most importantly, we remember our friends, and we never forgive our enemies. Every human you captured has family back on Earth. When we do not return home, they will come looking for us. Impossible, Vextal wheezed. Your species lacks interstellar travel capability. Maya's smile became predatory. Commander, you found Earth by accident while exploring empty space. What makes you think we cannot do the same thing when we have proper motivation? The other aliens on the bridge made terrified clicking sounds when they understood what Maya was telling them. They had not just captured a few humans. They had declared war on an entire Deathworld species that specialized in hunting down anything that threatened their families. Broadcast this message on all Zephyrian frequencies, Maya ordered, while taking control of the ship's communication system. Earth remembers its children, and Earth is coming to take them home. Maya stood on the bridge of the captured Zephyrian ship, watching the stars move past the viewports. 3 days had passed since they took control of the Void Harvest, and the ship was now heading back toward Earth instead of the slave markets of Kepler Station. The 17 freed humans had become the crew of their own liberation vessel. Captain Bennett handled navigation, while Chloe Davis managed the ship's systems with growing expertise. The alien technology was advanced, but designed by species that could not imagine users with human strength and problem-solving abilities. When something was locked, humans simply broke it open. When something was encrypted, humans found physical ways around the digital barriers. Long-range sensors detect a Zephyrian battlecruiser on intercept course. Jake Morrison reported from the sensor station. Admiral Zelthus is commanding personally. Maya was not surprised. Her broadcast had reached every corner of Zephyrian space over the past 3 days. The message was simple and direct, spoken in perfect high Zephyrian that she had learned by listening to the captured bridge crew. Earth knows what you did. Earth is coming. Release all human prisoners now or face the consequences. How long until they reach us? Maya asked. 6 hours at current speed, Jake replied. Their ship is larger and more heavily armed than ours. Are they responding to our communication attempts? Maya continued. Lisa Carter looked up from the communication console. Admiral Zelthus is demanding our immediate surrender. He says that resistance will result in the destruction of all humans aboard both vessels. Maya walked over to the communication station and activated the main transmission array. When she spoke, her voice was calm and clear, carrying the confidence of someone who had already won the war before the battle started. Admiral Zelthis, this is Maya Brooks of Earth speaking for all captured humans in Zephyrian space. You have 6 hours to release every human prisoner in your territory. After that time, we will consider your species an active threat to human survival. The reply came immediately in the Admiral's harsh voice. Primitive creature, you command a single, stolen vessel against the might of the Zephyrian fleet. Surrender now and your deaths will be swift. Maya smiled and looked around at her fellow humans. Captain Bennett nodded encouragingly while Tony Rodriguez cracked his knuckles in anticipation. Dr. Amanda Foster had been studying captured Zephyrian biological data, and her expression suggested she had found something useful. "Admiral, you still do not understand what you are dealing with," Maya replied. "Humans are not just strong or fast or resilient. We are adaptive. We learn from everything, and we turn every disadvantage into a weapon. You gave us 6 days to study your technology, your biology, and your tactical thinking. Your threats are meaningless," Zelthis responded. "No single ship can challenge our battle cruiser." "You are correct," Maya agreed. "One ship cannot defeat your battle cruiser using conventional tactics. Fortunately, humans rarely use conventional tactics." She gestured to Chloe Davis, who began implementing the modifications they had spent 3 days preparing. The ship's engines changed their harmonic frequency, and the artificial gravity systems began operating in patterns never intended by their original designers. "Amanda, explain to the Admiral what we learned about Zephyrian physiology," Maya requested. "Doctor." Foster activated her own communication channel and spoke in the clinical tone she used for scientific presentations. "Admiral Zelthis, your species evolved in 0.8 standard gravity with atmospheric pressure 20% of Earth normal. Your cardiovascular system operates at pressure levels that humans consider barely adequate for consciousness." "What is your point, creature?" the Admiral demanded. "We have modified this ship's artificial gravity generators to create localized field projections," Amanda continued. "When your boarding parties attempt to enter our vessel, they will find themselves in environments duplicating Earth's surface. Conditions." There was a long silence from the Admiral's ship. Maya could imagine him consulting with his tactical officers about what this meant for their invasion plans. 3.2 times standard gravity with atmospheric pressure and density. "Matching Earth normal," Amanda added helpfully. "Your troops will experience immediate structural failure of their skeletal systems followed by cardiovascular collapse." "Impossible," Zelthis finally replied. "Gravity manipulation technology cannot be modified for tactical applications. It can if you understand the underlying physics principles and you are not limited by safety protocols designed for fragile users," Chloe Davis said from her engineering station. "Humans have a different relationship with dangerous technology." Maya activated the main viewer and showed Admiral Zelthis what they had accomplished. The cargo bay that had once held human prisoners was now a test chamber where they had simulated various gravity and atmospheric conditions. Broken pieces of Zephyrian equipment floated in the display, crushed by gravitational forces that would have been fatal to their original users, but were merely uncomfortable to humans. "Your boarding parties will enter a death trap designed by people who grew up in conditions you classify as unsurvivable," Maya explained. "Every corridor, every room, every access tunnel can become a high-gravity kill zone that immobilizes your troops while leaving humans completely functional." "You are bluffing," Zelthis stated, but his voice carried less certainty than before. "Jake, show the Admiral our weapons testing results," Maya requested. Jake Morrison activated another display showing what happened when human-thrown objects encountered Zephyrian equipment and biological structures. Simple pieces of metal became devastating projectiles when thrown with Earth-trained strength and accuracy. Even improvised weapons like Maya's chains could destroy advanced alien technology through applied kinetic energy. Humans are persistence predators from a world where everything is weaponized by evolution, Maya said while the demonstration played. We do not need your advanced technology to defeat you. We just need you to come close enough for us to show you what 4 billion years of evolutionary warfare looks like. The communication channel remained silent for several minutes, while Admiral Zelthis presumably discussed options with his command staff. When he finally responded, his tone had changed from commanding to negotiating. "What are your terms for? Surrender?" he asked quietly. "We are not surrendering," Maya corrected him. "We are offering you one final opportunity to avoid a war you cannot win. Release all human prisoners immediately and transmit their locations to this vessel. Establish no-contact protocols between Zephyrian and human space. Never approach Earth or any human colony again." "And if we refuse?" Zelthis asked. Maya looked around the bridge at her fellow humans. These 17 people had gone from captured prisoners to the crew of a stolen warship in less than a week. They had learned alien technology, adapted it for human use, and turned it into weapons their captors never imagined possible. "Then we go home and tell Earth what happened to us," Maya replied simply. "We explain how Zephyrians capture humans to sell as slaves. We provide detailed technical specifications on your ships, your weapons, your biology, and your tactical doctrine. We give this information to a species that spent millions of years learning how to hunt and kill everything that threatened their survival." She paused to let the implications sink in before continuing. "Admiral, you found 18 humans by accident on one small colony. Earth has billions of humans spread across dozens of worlds. What do you think will happen when they learn that aliens are hunting their families?" The answer came 6 hours later when Admiral Zelthis transmitted the locations of every human prisoner in Zephyrian space, along with detailed apologies and promises of immediate release. The Zephyrian High Command issued galaxy-wide warnings about humans being reclassified as a restricted species with extreme caution protocols required for any contact. Maya stood on the bridge watching Earth grow larger in the main viewer as their captured ship approached home. She still wore pieces of her broken chains wrapped around her wrists like jewelry, a reminder of how the worst thing that ever happened to her had become the foundation of human freedom in the galaxy. Captain Bennett joined her at the viewing port and smiled at the blue and white planet ahead. "Think they learned their lesson?" he asked. Maya fingered her chain bracelets and thought about the message now spreading through every civilized system in the galaxy. Humans were no longer unknown primitives from an unexplored world. They were the apex predators of a deathworld who had proven they could turn any cage into a weapon and any chain into a tool of liberation. "They learned," Maya replied. "The whole galaxy learned. No one will make the mistake of trying to chain Earth's children ever again.